So in this video, I made this especially for the parents out there, the grandparents who have been praying for their adult children for quite some time. And it may seem that you're not seeing the fruit of your prayers, as it were. Well, what you're about to watch is my own personal testimony of what happened when my mother started praying for me and the way that God started showing up in my life, ways that she wasn't even aware of at the time. So I hope you enjoy this. And this is what I want to give to you today to encourage you to keep praying. In my early 20s, I had moved out of home to the other side of Australia I was living in Perth, Western Australia at the time. And I had not been brought up in church at all. I had vague memories of being at Sunday school. But other than that, not brought up in church whatsoever. So I had no grid for God or anything like that. But in my early 20s, I was certainly very spiritually hungry. And so I was trying different things, going to a clairvoyant, going to clairaudience, where they hear from the spirit realm, things like that. I was just trying different things, and I was really looking for some answers, I guess, but just didn't know what or how that would show up. And then my mum calls me randomly and said, "Julie, I want you to know that I have become a Christian. I've given my life to Jesus." And on my inside voice, I thought to myself, oh gosh, they're just going to take her money. It's just going to all be a trap. It's not going to end well for her. Luckily, I kept that to my inside voice, and with my outside voice said something like, "Good on you, Mum. That's great for you. I'm happy for you." Now, she, of course, got her friends praying for me. And here's what started to happen. I started thinking things like, I wonder what kind of person Jesus was like. Or I'd think something like, if I did this thing for this person, would that make Jesus happy? I had a friend, and I said to her, "Do you have a Bible? Where would I even get a Bible from?" And during my work day, I would have this compulsion. I felt this compulsion one day. So I walked past a church to just go inside and sit down. And that's exactly what I did. So I had all these little signposts along the way where God was starting to speak to me. I just didn't recognize it at the time. It was only looking back. So all these things are happening. And then the dreams started. And the dream was always the same recurring dream. And it was this. I literally saw myself on the staircase, and at the top end was an angel, and at the bottom end was a devil, a demon. And I was in the middle, and they were pulling me from one direction to the other, like this, like a tug of war. And the only way that I could wake myself up out of the dream was to say the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father who art in heaven." It must have stuck with me from Sunday school because that was the only way I could wake myself out of the bad dream. So this is all going on. And then my mum prays to God and says, "God, I need you to bring my daughter home so I can share the gospel with her." The next day I rang to say, "Mum, I'm coming home for a holiday." So she goes back to God and says, "Thank you, that's great, but I need more time with her." The next day I call to say, "Mum, I'm going to come home and live with you for a while if that's okay." So I did. And I'll never forget this. The day that I arrived, I walked along the driveway and she came towards me and I saw light emanating from her. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I want to meet the man that's responsible for creating this effect in her, not realizing that the man she met was in fact Jesus Christ. It was his light inside of her radiating out. So over time, maybe a couple of months, I built a friendship with her pastor. He would come and just ask me lots of questions. There was no judgment. He was curious about my journey and what I was looking into, and asked lots of questions. And then one day at my mother's kitchen table, he said to me, "Julie, you just need to make a decision today for Jesus." And then I came up with lots of excuses, right? I started saying things like, I'll have to give up the boyfriend and give up this and give up that. And he said, anything you give up for God, he will replace it 100-fold. So I ran out of excuses. And then I had the brilliant idea. I know, if I say the words, do the thing, keep the boyfriend, keep doing the things that I want to do, it's going to make my mum happy, it's going to make the pastor happy, and I'll be happy. Everybody wins. So I said, yes, sure, okay. So he slides the Bible towards me across the dining table, open to Psalm 51. I got as far as the first 5 words, which were, have mercy on me, O God. Something in me broke and I began sobbing and sobbing and sobbing. And in the middle of that state, I remember thinking to myself, what the heck is going on with me? But at the same time, I saw a vision of Jesus standing in front of me with his arms open wide. And in the blink of an eye, I went from not believing to completely believing that he was real because I saw him, I felt him. So I managed to compose myself after all of that, and I remember going outside for the first time. And you know what it's like when you see those videos of people who are colorblind and they get those special glasses and they put them on for the first time and they're just looking around at everything and they're overwhelmed with the colors that they can see for the first time. Well, that's what it felt like for me as I walked out into my mother's garden. Everything that I looked seemed 50 times brighter than I'd ever seen it before. Just so vivid and illuminated and just incredible. A couple of weeks later, I remember this, walking down the hallway to my room in my mother's house, and I had this thought, did you really see Jesus? Was that experience really real? You know, you were emotional, all kinds of things can happen that you think you see when you're in that kind of state. I didn't think anything of it, and I just went to my room and laid down, and here's what happened. When I laid down, I felt this emanating peace from my belly just get bigger and bigger and completely engulf me. And then I could suddenly smell this fragrance like fresh, crisp mountain air, pine needles kind of smell. And then I heard, not in here, but outside, as in an audible voice say to me this, my daughter, I will take you to Zion. I didn't even have a grid for what Zion was. I hadn't heard of the word. I didn't know the word. So I went running down the hallway, back to my mum. I said, Mum, what does Zion mean? And she said, that means the city of God. And so from that moment and from that experience, and this was about 36 years ago, I have never lost sight of how real that was. Despite all the challenges I've had in my life in the meantime, and there have been plenty, I always come back to that moment because nobody can take that away, that I had that encounter and I knew that God was real. So if you've been praying for your adult sons and daughters, let me just assure you that God is at work. He never sleeps, he never slumbers, and he will be speaking to them in ways that you just don't have visibility of right now. But there will come a day when all of your prayers will bear fruit and it will be amazing. So if you know someone in your world, in your community, in your network who is praying for their adult sons and daughters, and share this with them so that they are encouraged to keep on praying because God will come through. Hope you really enjoyed listening to this and watching it, and that you're really encouraged from it.